Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name's Antonio. After 6 years of marriage, my wife said she needed a break. Just 1 week apart, she said. Time to clear her head. That's what she called it. I was trying to process what that even meant. Now, I've been around long enough to know that when someone says they need space, it's rarely just about needing fresh air. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But by day 3, it became painfully clear that my wife had already physically moved on. And at that moment, I knew I had a decision to make. But before I get to how I made that choice, I want to take you all back to the beginning, where it all started. Because that's the only way any of this will make sense. 9 years ago, a few of our mutual friends had planned this low-key game night at someone's apartment. That night, our friends must have been playing matchmakers without saying a word, because they kept teaming Holly and me up in every game. And from the moment we sat next to each other, something just clicked. She was sharp, funny, and looked me in the eye when she spoke. After that night, it didn't take long for things to progress. A few texts turned into full conversations, and a couple days later, we met up again, this time just the two of us. I was in my mid-20s then, working hard, figuring things out. Holly was still finishing grad school, full of energy and big ideas. Despite being in different life stages, we found a rhythm. Soon we were doing weekend trips on a whim, driving for hours just to see the stars, or crashing at a small motel, just because we didn't want to go home yet. When Holly's final year of grad school rolled around, things got heavier for her. I knew I couldn't fix it, but I could show up. So I did. I wasn't her solution, but I was her support, and she told me more than once that it helped her breathe easier. A year into our relationship, I got a better job with steady hours, better pay. It felt like life was opening up. So we moved in together after she graduated, landed a solid job, and we finally felt like we were on equal footing. By the 3rd year, I knew. I didn't need more time or more signs. I bought the ring, took her out to the same spot we had one of our first real dates, and asked her to marry me. The question came straight from the heart. She said yes. We had a simple wedding, nothing extravagant, just family, friends, and vows. And in those early years of marriage, it looked like happiness. I truly thought we were on the same page. But looking back now, I wonder if we ever really were. So, after Holly and I got married, we were learning each other more deeply as a married couple. There were arguments, but they felt like the usual stuff that comes up when two people are building a life together, and we always came back to each other. By the 5th year, though, I started noticing things that didn't sit right with me. Holly began coming home later than usual. At first, I didn't think much of it. She'd text that she was working late or say a meeting ran over. But when it became more consistent, like 2 or 3 times a week, I started to wonder. One night, I asked if everything was okay at work, and her whole energy changed. She snapped, got defensive, asking if I doubt that she was working as she said. I was speechless. She asked if I wanted to be controlling. I didn't even know what to say anymore. The arguments came with distance. After every little disagreement, instead of us talking it through like we used to, she'd just shut down. Even if I tried to check in, maybe ask if we could sit down and talk things out, but she'd either wave it off or hit me with, "I'm tired," or "let's not do this right now." The coldness started to hang around longer after each fight, and I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home. When she wasn't working late or sleeping early, she was glued to her phone. There'd be nights we'd sit in the same room for hours and not say more than 5 words to each other. I tried to bring back the spark. I planned date nights, booked us dinner reservations, and offered to drive us out to that little Italian place she used to love. But each time, she had a reason. Too tired. Maybe another weekend. And when she did agree, she'd show up like her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else. Eyes on the phone, zoning out mid-conversation. I'd be talking about my day, and she'd nod at the wrong moments, not even realizing what I said. It felt like I was dining with a stranger. I'll be honest, I didn't know what to do with all of it. I didn't want to start a fight, but I also didn't want to pretend everything was fine. Every attempt I made, she either dodged or dismissed. I sat there some nights, wondering who I was even living with anymore. This wasn't the woman I married. And it hurt realizing someone was slipping away right in front of you. One Friday evening, I decided I'd stop watching the house fall apart and actually try to fix something. She loved my homemade lasagna. So I got home a bit early, picked up the groceries, and got to work in the kitchen. I was hoping that maybe seeing me doing something thoughtful would remind her of what we used to be. Maybe she'd open up, or at least let me in on what was bothering her. I even set the table properly, lit a couple candles, and turned off the TV so it would just be us and the silence. When she finally walked in, I heard the keys in the door, and my heart picked up. She stepped into the kitchen, saw me in my apron, stirring sauce, and for a moment her whole face softened. Her lips curled just a little like she was surprised. That gave me hope and made me feel like I wasn't crazy for still holding on. We sat down to eat. She complimented the food, saying it smelled great. I nodded, trying to keep things light. I didn't push any serious talk, just let the moment settle. But halfway through, she put her fork down, looked at me across the table, and I could tell something heavy was coming. Her face changed as she said, "I've been meaning to have this conversation for a while now," she began. Then said, "I'm not feeling this marriage anymore. I think I need space, maybe a week, just to clear my head." I sat there frozen for a second, tried to process it. "What do you mean by space?" I asked her gently. I just needed to understand. She avoided my eyes for a moment and then added, "I don't feel excited. I just feel numb." I didn't even know what to say to that. We had been together for 6 years, married, with history, with memories. Numb? Where did that even come from? I tried to meet her halfway, told her we could go for counseling. People go through hard patches, but they don't just throw everything away. She just shrugged. "Not yes, not no. Maybe," she said. "But I think I just need time to myself." And that was it. I didn't push further. Not because I agreed, but because I knew if I fought too hard in that moment, she'd push even further away. But deep inside, something didn't feel right. I didn't have proof yet, but I had this feeling. I nodded, said okay. So, the very next morning after that dinner, she packed up a small duffel bag and stood at the door like she was going on a business trip. She told me she'd be going to some kind of weekend retreat, something quiet and relaxing, just to clear her mind. After that, she said she'd spend the rest of the week at her parents' place. I stood in the kitchen, just nodding. There was a knot in my chest, but I didn't say much. I wanted to ask her if she planned on going to work from her parents' house, what exactly this retreat was about, but I held back. I was trying not to stir up another argument. I decided instead to do what I've always done, watch, think, and piece things together in silence. By the third day of her so-called break, the truth got out. I was at home, going through some work emails, when a message from one of my close friends popped up. He sent me a screenshot from Instagram with a simple message asking if I ended things with my wife. My heart dropped. I hadn't touched Instagram in years. I honestly forgot it existed for me. But when I opened the image, my stomach turned. It was my wife at a rooftop bar somewhere. She had the carefree glow of someone having a good time with another man she was leaning into. I recognized the man she was leaning on immediately. He was her coworker. I'd met him before. He was friendly back then. But seeing that photo, the way they looked like two teenagers wrapped up in something new and exciting, it told me more than I ever wanted to know. I reactivated my old Instagram account that very moment. I had to see for myself. I typed in her name, but the photo was gone. She had deleted it. But when I searched the guy's profile, it was still there. It wasn't hard to find his full name. I clicked through his Instagram stories and saw more than one picture that felt intimate. This wasn't a drunken accident or a misunderstood moment. It was planned. It had presence. They were smiling in places I'd never been with her. Still needing to be sure, I called someone I trusted, an old mutual friend who works in HR at Holly's company. I tried to play it smooth, asked if Holly had been approved for time off. He laughed and said, "Yeah, she's on 2 weeks of leave." "Wait, you didn't know?" he asked. I faked a chuckle and told him I just wanted to make sure it all lined up. Then I casually mentioned the guy in the picture, her coworker. My buddy told me, "Yeah, he's on leave too." That's when everything clicked. The so-called break, from our marriage wasn't about reflection or space. It was a vacation with him. I kept watching their social media accounts like a detective. I took screenshots of everything that contains them. I didn't plan to confront her yet. No. I needed this for what I knew was coming next. I wasn't just a heartbroken husband anymore. I was preparing to protect myself from the storm that was clearly already in motion. So after seeing these photos of Holly with her new guy, I sat down at my kitchen table that night, opened my laptop, and searched for best divorce lawyers near me. I scrolled through a bunch of websites, reading reviews, checking ratings, comparing experiences, until I found one that looked professional and had good feedback from people in situations similar to mine. I booked a consultation right there for the next morning. I didn't even sleep much that night, but when the sun came up, I got dressed, gathered all the screenshots I had, and went to that lawyer's office. I told him everything, including the night she told me she needed space, and now this, her on what looked like a vacation with another man while claiming to be at her parents' place. He listened carefully, didn't interrupt once, and when I was done, he leaned back in his chair and started explaining what I had on my side. First, we were renting, and the lease was in my name. That meant I had the legal right to stay in the apartment. Second, we had a joint bank account, but the only one putting in significant money was I. I had transaction records to prove it. He said that would work in my favor when it came to splitting the funds. Third, and probably most important, we didn't have any children. That alone simplified the entire process. No custody battles, no child support discussions, no emotional tug-of-war over innocent lives. And then came the part that gave me real peace of mind. Our state didn't offer alimony or spousal support to partners who were unfaithful. The lawyer said, if you can show proof that she was cheating, then she doesn't get a dime from you once this is over. I just sat there quietly for a moment, letting it all sink in. I wasn't happy about any of this. This wasn't how I imagined our story ending. But I realized that I had done my part. So I looked at the lawyer and said, let's move forward. File everything. As soon as possible. He nodded and we got started. When Holly left, she said she just needed a week. Day 7 came and went. By then, I knew where she really was and who she was with. But what struck me more than anything else was that she didn't even bother pretending to keep her word. She didn't come back until 2 full weeks had passed. And when she did come back, she didn't walk into the same home she left. She came back to a new reality, one where the locks had been changed and her key didn't work anymore. I wasn't home when she arrived, but the moment she realized she couldn't get in, she called me. My voice was steady when I answered and told her something she probably didn't expect to hear so plainly. We're over, I said. You didn't need space, you needed someone new. You've got him now. You're free. So am I. There was silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing. Maybe she was trying to come up with an explanation or some excuse that would make it all less ugly than it was. But I didn't give her the chance. I told her she didn't need to explain anything to me anymore. I said, my lawyer will send the divorce papers. You can tell me where you want them sent, your friend's place or by email. That was the end of that conversation. She didn't come back to the house again. The divorce process wasn't messy in the traditional sense. There were no kids involved, and we didn't own the home we lived in, we were renting. The lease had only my name, but I had already decided not to renew it when it expired. I was ready to close that chapter and move on completely. We had a joint account, but I was the only one depositing any real money into it. The court reviewed our financial records and split the account based on contribution. That meant I got the majority. Still, during the court proceedings, she tried to spin the narrative. She claimed that I had been emotionally unavailable and that she felt alone in the marriage. She said that's what pushed her into someone else's arms. I listened to her say those words in front of a judge, and I didn't interrupt. I had already made peace with what happened. Her excuses didn't matter. What mattered was that I was finally letting go of a version of love that had already died long before the affair ever started. The judge granted her one-time access to the apartment so she could collect her belongings. After 4 long months, the divorce was finalized. Just like that, 6 years of marriage and 9 years of knowing each other came to an official end. The person I thought would be my forever turns out to be a lesson instead. Looking back now, I never thought this would be how it ended. When you marry someone, you don't picture them walking away or the person you fell in love with becoming a stranger right in front of you. You especially don't imagine finding out that the break they asked for was really a vacation with someone else. But life doesn't ask for your permission to turn upside down. It just does. I'm not going to lie to you, this wasn't easy for me. There were nights I lay in bed, wondering if there was something I missed, something I could have done differently, some moment where I should have paid closer attention. But even with all that wondering, I kept coming back to the same truth. If someone doesn't want to be with you anymore, nothing you do will make them stay. And honestly, you shouldn't try to make them stay. That's not love. That's desperation. And I refused to live like that. I loved Holly. I really did. I wanted to grow old with her. I wanted us to fight for what we had. But love isn't a one-person job. And in the end, when she left and chose someone else, she made it clear that what we built didn't mean enough to her anymore. So I let her go. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally realized I was holding onto something that only existed in my memories, not in our reality anymore. I don't know what comes next. I'm still figuring it out, one day at a time. But I do know this. I'd rather be alone and at peace than partnered and broken. Thank you for listening. For real. I figured someone out there needed to hear it. Someone who is going through something similar right now. And if you are, I hope you know that you're not alone. Before I go, let me ask you something. Just think about it for a second. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like this?